Line with Austyn Iven and OSU insider Robert Allen is brought to you by Coors Light and by The Garage. Burgers, beer, best times.
Welcome to Behind the Line. I'm Austyn Iven here with insider Robert Allen, here to talk some Cowboy football for our game today against Texas. How are you, Robert?
I'm good. It's been a interesting week, but I'm good.
Well, this probably isn't what the Cowboys envisioned for the start of their season. 2-2. They haven't won a conference game. They certainly don't want to drop to 0-2 today with their game. What has been the Cowboys' message this week, and where do they plan to go from here?
Well, I think players are always going to be more resilient than fans and coaches, and so they get over it pretty quick. But I can tell you from, traveling, as a radio group, we travel with the team, and I was telling our production team beforehand, you got on the plane last week, and as you walk down the aisle and you're walking past the players, and you look them in the eye, you could tell what they were thinking. At least I thought I could. And it was, we let one get away tonight in Waco, Texas, that we were the better team. We had a chance to beat these guys, and because of mistakes, we didn't get it done. So I think from a technical standpoint, from a football technical standpoint this week, it was all about correcting mistakes. It was about Justice Hill learning, okay, what did I do here that caused me to fumble? What can I do to prevent it? Same with Mason Rudolph. And on the defensive side, a lot of work on technique and making sure that you don't allow those big plays. And they've got a different challenge ahead. We'll talk about that coming up. But Texas is going to go for the throat, so to speak, in a much different way than the Baylor Bears did.
Well, Texas had an interesting start to their season, too. They won in double overtime against Notre Dame, and then they beat a UTEP team. Then they lost a tough one in Cal, but they had a bye week last week. So what do we really know about them?
Well, one thing is the Notre Dame win has been devalued. Now, if you're a Longhorn player, you're probably trying to not think about the fact Notre Dame's now 1-3 and spinning out of control. The UTEP's not a very good program, not a Power 5 conference team, and you thrash them around pretty good at home. Well, when you did go out and play a team that's got some ability and is having a chance at a decent year, Cal out on the West Coast, you gave up a lot of big plays. Very similar to Oklahoma State. The concern during the open week at Texas was over a defense that gave up a lot of big plays, much like the concern over Oklahoma State coming out of the Baylor game. I think the most interesting thing on today, this morning, when it morning kickoff, the 11 a.m., is going to be see how both defenses respond. Texas has been knocked around. There was even talk that their defensive coordinator might be demoted. There has been rumors. As I walked in here today, I got asked twice, is Glenn Spencer still the defensive coordinator? I can tell you, I've been at practice. Glenn Spencer is the defensive coordinator, and Joe Bob Clements is still coaching the defensive line. So those things have not changed. But I kind of want to see which defense responds the best coming off a week, and for Texas 2 weeks, where you faced a lot of criticism.
Well, the Texas-OSU series has been an interesting one. We've won the last 4 times in Austyn, but they've won every game in Stillwater since 1997. Why is that? Why do the opposing team have so much success on the road?
Well, and the incredible thing about that is there have been games. Oklahoma State had the lead at halftime once, 35-7. They had a lead at going into the fourth quarter here in Stillwater with Mike Gundy as coach and Mac Brown coaching the Texas Longhorns. OSU went into the fourth quarter leading 35-14, 21-point lead. Texas found a way to come back. So there have been some incredible comebacks, mostly on the part of the Longhorns. And then you look at last year's game. If you're a Texas fan, you're walking out of Memorial Stadium in Austyn shaking your head thinking, how did we lose that? Our punter couldn't catch a snap. I mean, there were a lot of penalties last year in that game. The officiating crew caught some flack after it was over. So there have been some weird things happen in this series. 2 years ago, the last time Oklahoma State played at home against Texas, Dax Garman started at quarterback, and Oklahoma State had no chance. And I mean, nothing against Dax. He was brave. He stepped in when there was nobody else to step in, at least until they decided to pull the red shirt on Mason Rudolph. the next week. But Dax Garman was not able to quarterback Oklahoma State with any kind of success.
2 weeks ago, Rennie Childs had over 100 yards rushing. Last week, Justice Hill had 122. Are they finally hitting their stride?
I think they are hitting a stride. I think the offensive line is hitting a stride. By the way, back-to-back 100-yard games by a running back had not been done since 2012 with Rennie Childs. With Joe Randall was the last one to do it. Do you have that in your notes?
I saw that the other day. Yeah,
Okay, there you go. But no, I think Rennie's a guy that will be fairly reliable, and you can use the rest of the season. Chris Carson will eventually make it back, and I think you'll see Chris doing better because I think the offensive line's doing better. And as far as Justice, again, the fumbles hurt. You can't dismiss them, but he's going to learn lessons from those. And I think Justice Hill's got a tremendously bright future. He's very strong for his size. He's got good quickness, and he really, when he gets the ball in his hands, he really literally explodes out of his cleats. So with the offensive line performing better and those guys feeling more confident. But this is a Texas team that's, again, big up front. Poona Ford, Paul Boyette. I mean, you're talking about 320 and 315 right there in the middle. So that's going to be asking those guys in the middle, the guard, center, and guard, to work really hard to get those guys pushed off the line of scrimmage.
OSU has won 25 out of 26 games when they don't turn the ball over. So, I mean, would you agree that's very important to take care of the ball?
Oh yeah, I'd say that's instrumental because even with the big plays you gave up on defense last week, I think if either you convert that fourth down and punch the ball in. That was the one where Rennie didn't make it on fourth down. And if he had slid over half a step to his left, I think he would have made the first down. And then you had the fumble, the next possession, down at the 2-yard line by Justice Hill. I think if you score either time there, I'd say it's probably better than 50-50, probably 60-40. At that stage of the game, I think Baylor might have self-imploded if you took the lead on them that late. It would have been with about 5 minutes left in the game, and Baylor hadn't been in that situation this year. So I would have liked to have seen it happen, but again, it was turnovers that were the culprits. So yeah, you can't turn the ball over. Not against Mike Gundy says this all the time. You turn the ball over against good teams, you can't win.
Okay, let's go back to Texas. They have a 2-quarterback system. We had that last year with Mason and JW. How does that compare to ours and theirs?
They use it very similarly, but it's a different way it's operated. With J-Dub is an athletic runner with speed that would get outside, make a few moves, a little shake and bake. I mean, a lot of people don't realize this. If they'd had a track meet last year on the OSU football team and picked the 6 fastest sprinters to do a 100-meter dash, J-Dub would have been in that group and probably would have finished, I'm going to guess he would have finished 3rd, 4th, or 5th. He wouldn't have finished last. I don't think he would have finished first, but I think he would have been somewhere there in the middle. That's how he made his yards, and the fact that you really had to respect his ability to throw the ball too. He could throw the ball. With Tyrone Swoops can throw the ball too. They haven't really shown it in the package yet. They call theirs the 18-wheeler because he's huge. He's 6'4", 250 pounds, and he's like those backs, like Chris Warren and Dante Foreman. He's a load. So that's the big thing with Tyrone Swoops is making sure you get a good hit on him and drag him down. He scored that touchdown in the double overtime against Notre Dame. There were a lot of times during that game, Notre Dame's got good players. I know they're 1-3 and struggling, but they've recruited a few good players. Those guys didn't do very well against Swoops. He really dominated them.
Well, let's talk about Texas's defense. They've got to its opponent's backfield a lot this season. They have 11 sacks in 3 games, but what impressed me was it's 8 different guys that have recorded a sack. So can the Cowboys even focus on one player, or do they have to be aware of the pressure coming from all over?
Yeah, all over. And do you know, now here's the thing we're going to see with both Oklahoma State's defense and Texas defense. In the game against Cal, Texas ran 22 different defensive fronts, looks up front. They ran 16 different covers on the back end. and I want to say they blitzed, they showed maybe 7 or 8 blitzes. So, yeah, they are coming from all over. But they had a lot of lack of execution, like Oklahoma State. They had a lot of mistakes that caused big plays for Cal. How do you correct that? Well, when you've got good players, and I think Texas has good players, I think Oklahoma State has good players on defense. To me, the simplest way to correct that is to allow your defenders not to think as much, which means don't call as many different schemes. Narrow it down. Have 4 or 5 fronts. Have 3 or 4 coverages. Have a couple of blitzes that you want to use. But get it to the point where they don't have to think about what they're doing. They can just use their speed, use their athletic ability to go make a play.
Well, with OSU knowing Texas is going to come after them with pressure, how do they offset that?
Well, you run the football.
Okay.
I mean, you run the football, and after a while, they've got to keep their eye on the run. They can't just come full force. You make yards on first down so that second and third down are unpredictable. And then if none of those pan out, you let Mason Rudolph throw the heck out of the football and James Washington go run under and catch it. Pitt knew what Oklahoma State was going to do. Pitt did a pretty good job. Rennie had the 100 yards that game, but when you look at it, Oklahoma State had like 108, 9 yards total. Rennie had 102 of it. So it wasn't just, it wasn't just a monster number. Like last week, Oklahoma State ran for over 200 yards. If they can do that today against Texas, I'll tell you right now, Oklahoma State wins the game. But, the odds of them being able to do that, Texas, by the way, ran for 307 against Cal.
Wow.
So Oklahoma State's got a chore in stopping the run. I would go so much as to say the team that uses the run most to their advantage, not necessarily scores every touchdown, running, because Oklahoma State's going to balance. They're going to use the run to set up some of their passing. But the team that uses the run most effectively will win the game.
Well, thank you so much, Robert, for joining us. That was OSU insider Robert Allen, and I'm Austyn Iven for Behind the Line.
Join Austyn Iven and Robert Allen each week on the Franchise Pregame Football Show as they take you behind the line of OSU football.